When you look at where psilocybin has a place, the current therapies are really not therapies to treat the condition. They're abstinence therapies, right? They're very much focused on preventing drinking on an ongoing basis, creating side effects or abnormal experiences for people if they do drink. Whereas psilocybin, along with the psychotherapy, is really focused on changing habits.
My next guest is a gentleman who almost needs no introduction. Greg Engel joins us. He's the director of Clairvoyant Therapeutics. Greg, welcome back.
Great to see you again, James.
You too, Greg. So tell us about Clairvoyant Therapeutics. What's the business? What's the plan?
Yeah, so we're still a privately held company focused on psychedelic medicine, primarily on addiction. So our initial phase 2 trial, which we expect to be approved imminently from Health Canada, which is currently under review with them, will be focused on alcohol use disorder. And there have been investigator-initiated trials that have shown very, very good results that are sustained with psilocybin, along with motivational enhanced therapy, psychotherapy, to really have an impact on reducing the number of heavy drinking days and the number of drinking days in total in that population. So we're really excited about it, and I think it's a great opportunity to advance the science on psilocybin in a more rigorous form than historically has been done.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from personal experience that ingesting psilocybin makes you not want to drink. And, but not that, it's completely different, obviously, in the clinical environment where somebody has alcohol use disorder. But I have been watching a lot of the research, and it seems like it's I wouldn't say at this point conclusive, but it's certainly indicative of an efficacy that sort of trumps everything else that's available. So how broadly do you think the application of psilocybin for alcohol use disorder is going to be? Is it going to be like 100% of the population?
No, I think if you look at, there's been some estimates. Prohibition Partners put out a report last September kind of looking at, what's the global impact in terms of society. And alcohol use disorder has $150 billion impact on society, right? And this is, and it used to be called alcoholism, but now called alcohol use disorder. And I think when you look at where psilocybin has a place, the current therapies are really not therapies to treat the condition. They're abstinence therapies, right? They're very much focused on preventing drinking on an ongoing basis, creating side effects or abnormal experiences for people if they do drink. Whereas psilocybin, along with the psychotherapy, is really focused on changing habits. And, one of the keys of psilocybin as a therapeutic treatment is that, again, very good study by Bogenschutz et al. That looked at, a 25 milligram dose with 2 cycles of treatment, really found that, patients become more open, and through that psychotherapy and motivational enhanced therapy, along with the treatment in a controlled setting, really changes their habits, right? This is alcohol use disorder is a long ingrained condition. So you're looking to not only have, it's not about the experience at the time, is can you have a lasting effect on the treatment? So really impressed, and we're really excited about the clinical study and eventually moving towards approving the drug not only in Canada, but in Europe and the UK.
Uh-huh. And is your focus currently just in Canada?
So our trial's is under review with Health Canada. We're submitting shortly in the EU as well. So the initial phase 2 trial, we are expect to have sites both within the EU and within Canada. And then when we move into phase 3 next year, we expect to add the UK as well. So, but it's really those markets that we're focused on in terms of the strategy where we see the greatest opportunity.
Right. Okay, then in terms of addressable global market, what is the sort of scope and scale?
Well, again, it's challenging to predict. If you look at the total number of people that utilize alcohol, we're estimating that if you're able to, on an annual basis, let's say 1% of the total population who uses alcohol have alcohol use disorder. That's a very, conservative number. If you're able to, garner 1 to 2% of that population, you're talking a drug therapy that has the potential for hundreds of millions of dollars per year, just at that very margin. So getting those people on the margin, and then over time it will expand. So, we're projecting certainly peak sales 3-4 years out in the hundreds of millions of dollars range.
Wow, fantastic. And so is there a go public strategy in place at this point or not yet?
We're still private. The company is actually founded by Damien Kettlewell, who you may recall from Blisco, longtime entrepreneur. And, I was really excited to join the board last year because I was approached, when I made a decision to leave Organogram, I was approached by a number of different psychedelic companies because my background prior to cannabis was in biotech and pharma and had experience starting a number of different biotech and pharma companies. And I was really excited about Clairvoyant's plans, taking a very rigorous short path clinical program. So, being able to jump into a kind of a late stage phase 2 trial at this point. So we want to get to the point, where we've proven ourselves, or at least really kind of gotten to that point before I go public, but not too far in the future. I think you'll see the company go public, but at this point we're remaining private.
Sure. At clinicaltrials.gov, which is where I sort of go to monitor what trials are underway around the world, there are currently over 80 trials involving psilocybin for a wide range of things, ranging from, treatment-resistant depression to alcohol use disorder. And so it strikes me that the landscape is quickly becoming crowded. And so from a competitive perspective, is there any concern on your part that there's a sort of a fuse lit under your butt to get there quickly?
No, it's a great question, James. So the majority of trials that are underway still are investigator-initiated trials. We're seeing that is where the focus is. Researchers have wanted access to various psychedelics, and it's not only psilocybin, but MDMA and LSD and ketamine, even though that's approved in some jurisdictions, being used as treatment. So for us as a company, the goal here is to, work on the product to get it to the point where regulatory submissions are possible. We're able to get approval, through Health Canada, through the EMEA in Europe and the UK health authorities. And, the goal in doing that is then you have a drug that can be reimbursed by private public insurers. And, a lot of the research, as I said, that's ongoing is really being done by, universities, investigator initiated. So it is a crowded market. There's lots of companies that are exploring the space. There's 3 different approaches happening. One is a drug development like Clairvoyance. Another is a kind of a combination of clinic and kind of product development where, companies are looking to set up clinics for treatment. And the third is really developing new chemical entities where they're creating different forms of these products where they can, go into study. The majority of those are much further behind really in phase 1 studies because they're just testing out these new chemicals. So we're in that one bucket, and there's a limited number of companies that are focused in that area specifically.
Sure. So then are you using psilocybin in its natural form as opposed to isolating the compound, the active ingredient?
Yeah, we're working with a drug supplier that's been working with psilocybin for a long time for a synthetic psilocybin. Psilocybin, as you may know, from an active ingredient perspective, there's really only 2 active ingredients in magic mushrooms, which is the natural form, which is psilocybin and psilocin, and synthetic psilocybin is metabolized to psilocin. So you get both active ingredients in the process, and certainly, again, one of the keys to get to a drug approval process and go through the regulatory process is consistently being able to produce the drug in a pure form, and then B, when you market that product, that that it meets the parameters, and that's why we've made a choice on synthetic versus natural.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So then the current amount of cash that you have on hand is how far is that going to take you, Mike? And the reason for my question is I'm wondering when is the next opportunity to make an investment?
No, it's a great question. So we've completed a seed financing round. We are just about to launch a Series A financing potentially to raise another, $7 million. And that would take us through completion of the phase 2 trial and into the initiation of the phase 3 trial. So that's, we're just at that stage right now where we're looking for investors in the Series A financing. And, we're doing this in a very lean way. One of the key aspects of the structure, there's a small number of employees, there's lots of advisors or consultants like myself being on the board that are, bringing their added value, but also, the way we're working with the drug supplier and the way we're doing the clinical studies. And, part of the reason, for example, we chose alcohol use disorder, first of all, there's a large global unmet medical need, but we know in clinical studies, in studies that have been done there, your recruitment rate's very, very high. You mentioned treatment-resistant disorder, for example. I worked in mental health when I was in pharma, and so, for example, for average site, you recruit 0.3 patients per month in a depression study. With alcohol use disorder, you can recruit 4 to 5 times that many, so 1.3 to 1.5 patients per month. So your recruitment rate can be pretty quick. So your ability to get through the clinical program is accelerated versus many disorders. So,
interesting. All right, Greg. Well, we're going to leave it there for now. I'm going to follow you with great interest as usual. And by all means, please email me any sort of documentation around the financing. I'm very interested. And I'll look forward to having you back in due course. Thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Always great to see you, James. Thanks again.
Bye for now.